video of our multi-video seller series, we shall look at home inspections and the survey. And for the benefit of our homeowners who live in the UK, let us point out that what is called a survey in the UK is called an inspection in the US, which can prove somewhat confusing for our international homeowners. For this reason, we are covering both these topics in the same video. Here are 12 points of note about these very important parts of a real estate transaction, which are provided for in the sale and purchase contract and are performed at the expense of the buyer.
Number 1. General home inspection. A general home inspection is a limited, non-invasive examination of a home's condition. Home inspectors generally hold a home inspector's license. In the inspection, the inspector looks for items in the home that are not safe, sound, or secure. Home inspectors generally will not reference any cosmetic defects unless these defects also fall into the category of not being safe, sound, or secure. For example, a torn carpet could be highlighted in an inspection as it may prove to be a trip hazard. Home inspectors frequently will produce a written home inspection report on the day of the inspection, and if not, then the report generally follows in a day or two. The seller has to make sure that the utilities are connected and available at the time the buyers wish to perform any inspections.
Number 2. Wind mitigation inspection. Many general home inspectors are also qualified to perform a wind mitigation inspection. A wind mitigation inspection is a visual examination of the condition of the roof and the techniques used in its construction. A wind mitigation inspection is generally ordered by the buyer to lessen the homeowner's insurance premium on an older home by showing the insurance provider that the roof has been well maintained and that its structure is not compromised in any way.
Number 3. 4-point inspection. Many general home inspectors are also qualified to perform a 4-point inspection. A 4-point inspection looks at the 4 major systems in the home, which are the roof, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Like the wind mitigation inspection, the 4-point inspection is again generally performed to lessen the homeowner's insurance premium on an older home by showing the insurance provider that these items in the home have been well maintained and are in sound working order.
Number 4. Mold inspection. As mold grows, mold spores and other unstable organic compounds can enter the air. They can produce allergens, irritants, and mycotoxins. Some of these can be highly toxic, especially to individuals who have a sensitivity to them. A mold inspection can be quite pricey and is generally not performed unless the initial general inspection of the home references an area or areas where mold is present.
Number 5. WDO inspection. Some general home inspectors are also licensed WDO or wood destroying organism inspectors. The WDO inspection is a visual inspection of the home for wood destroying organisms which include termites, certain wood boring beetles, and wood decay fungi. Government loans such as FHA and VA will require that the seller takes care of any such issues that may arise, and the appraiser, ordered by the buyer's lender, will notate any such issues that the seller must take care of in order for the buyer's loan to be approved.
Number 6. Structural inspection. Like the mold inspection, a structural inspection can be quite pricey and is generally not performed unless the initial general inspection of the home shows an area of structural concern. A structural inspector will perform a visual analysis of the home's key components, including beams and joists, to determine if these pieces are of load-bearing capacity. Structural inspectors will identify problem areas such as foundation settling, issues with property additions, and other potential weak spots in the home.
Number 7. Infrared inspection. An infrared inspection is able to identify issues which otherwise are not visible without using invasive methods. It is capable of detecting issues above ceilings, inside walls, or under the floorboards. This type of inspection is particularly useful in the case of older homes which may contain hidden issues such as mold, electrical problems, heat and energy loss, foundation cracks, missing insulation, or rodent infestations.
Number 8. What is a survey? So having covered all the various inspections at a buyer's disposal, let us look now at the survey. A property survey is a sketch of a piece of land showing the boundary lines, physical features, and permanent improvements such as the home itself, the driveway, and any fences, shed, pool, or such like that may also exist on the property. The survey will notate any utility easements, as no permanent structures such as sheds, pools, or fences should be constructed in these easements, as they may have to be removed if later on access is required to dig up any utility lines.
Number 9. Are inspections and a survey mandatory? So the buyer and seller are now under contract for the buyer to buy and the seller to sell the home. Does the buyer have to perform inspections and have a survey performed on the home? You may well ask. The home inspection is not mandatory, even in the case of a financed purchase. This is because the appraiser, ordered by the buyer's lender to perform a valuation on the home, will also be on the lookout for any repairs that he or she would consider necessary for the seller to perform in advance of the closing date in order for the home to qualify for the buyer's particular type of financing. Lenders do, however, require a survey of the property to be performed, and this is generally ordered by the title company or attorney company performing the closing. If the seller can produce a previous survey to the closing company and be prepared to sign an affidavit of no change to the property, then the previous survey may be used. In the case of a cash buyer, neither an inspection or a survey are mandatory.
Number 10. Inspection issues. In a contract where a certain amount of money has already been negotiated for repairs at the time that the contract was signed by both parties, a list of repairs from the inspection report will be presented to the seller, and the seller is obligated to perform as many of these as the seller can while staying within the repair budget allowed for already in the contract. If there are so many repairs in the inspection report that they exceed the budget allowed for in the negotiated contract, the buyer may list the repairs in order of the buyer's priority, so the issues the buyer feels are most important to be addressed will be addressed first by the seller. Also, the buyer may ask for an increased amount of repair money so the funds cover all the repairs, or the buyer may cancel. Even in an as-is purchase, the buyer frequently presents a list of repairs to the seller, but in this case, the seller has the right to refuse to perform these. The buyer at that point can decide whether to proceed forward and perform the repairs post-closing or to cancel the contract and find another home. The as-is contract allows for the buyer to cancel at his or her sole discretion, so the seller cannot be sure that the buyer will be proceeding forward until the inspection contingency has expired. Inspection contingencies can be as short as a few days or as long as the buyer wishes and the seller permits. Occasionally, in a very competitive seller market, the buyer, in order to have his or her offer appear strong and to be more likely to be accepted by the seller, may waive his or her right to an inspection altogether and proceed forward without having any inspections performed whatsoever.
Number 11. Survey issues. Survey issues are not as common as inspection issues, as it is very rare to find a home with no inspection issues whatsoever. Survey issues are rare and may involve a neighbour's fence or small permanent structure encroaching on the surveyed property, a permanent structure existing on a utility easement, or an encroachment of a permanent structure such as a pool on the property into a conservation easement. In a situation like the latter example, the seller may have to apply for a variance to the city or county planning and zoning department depending on where the property is located.
Number 12. Buyer's final walkthrough. The contract allows for the buyer to have a final walkthrough of the home before signing the closing documents. This is the buyer's opportunity to have one last check of the home to make sure that everything is still working as it was at the time of the inspection and that there have been no mishaps happen to the home, such as a broken window, water penetration, or anything else that would prevent the buyer from wishing to proceed to closing without having the seller remedy the issue. Like with the home inspections, the contract stipulates that the seller must have the utilities remain connected for the final walkthrough. In the case of bank-owned or foreclosed homes, the seller may impose the responsibility for utility connection at the outset onto the buyer, and the buyer remains responsible to pay for the utility connection and utility service throughout the whole closing process.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the rest of the videos in our seller series.